one music. Intermotif.
Easter was coming, and I didn't want Easter to kind of sneak up on me like it usually does. I usually, Good Friday service comes or whatever, and I realized that I haven't once in the previous week stopped to think about the holiday that we're about to celebrate. And so to preempt that from happening this particular year, I started with Palm Sunday, and after the kids all went to bed and my wife went to bed, I stayed up an extra hour or two and read through the Gospels and kind of reminded myself what was happening each day of the week of Christ's Passion. And then after I finished reading through that section of the Gospels, I would write a meditation and post it online so that, my listeners could also kind of go on this journey with me of kind of learning what it was that God had to teach me this year about Easter and resurrection.
I give you praise, oh great invisible God.
And so in the middle of it all, somebody posted a comment on my website that said, Andrew, thank you for writing these resurrection letters. And I thought, ooh, that sounds like an album title. And so I remembered that about a year later when we went into the studio. I thought, I wonder if I can come up with a good reason to call my album Resurrection Letters. And we did what I normally do when I make an album, which is I just kind of pile together all the songs I've written over the previous 2 years and then pick out the ones that don't stink. And so we grabbed all the songs and put them together and realized that there, sure enough, for the most part, there was this theme of resurrection that kind of bound the songs together. And they were all kind of in one way or another about the way Christ's resurrection has kind of played itself out in our world and the way what it means to us today. Pictures of God's resurrection and pictures of that being the heart of the story that God is telling are kind of all around us.
I was a boy, just 9 years old. I heard the calling came.
The Good Confession is it's my attempt to try to answer the question that I get a lot of times, which is, when did you become a Christian? And I grew up in the church. My dad's a preacher, and it gets tricky, when you grow up, when you've been in Sunday school since you were in the womb. It's hard to know because Jesus and his story was always just kind of around, But then I think, okay, well, no, there was this one day when I did walk the aisle and accepted the invitation at the end of one of my dad's sermons and cried. And in my church, one of the first things that my dad would have people do when they walked the aisle would be to repeat what we called the Good Confession, which is taken from when Peter confessed Christ. He said, I believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God.
Through the years, I barely fell. I mostly dove right in.
So I remember saying that when I was 9. But after that, I was just a nightmare of a human being in junior high and high school, and joined a rock band. And all this time, I was a Christian. I would have told you that I was a Christian, but Jesus was more of a nuisance to me, like a kid brother that wouldn't get out of my room, And he would, slip in and prick my conscience at just the worst possible times. But then I remember a year after high school, I encountered the music of Rich Mullins. And it was the first time I'd heard music that kind of just wrecked me. And it was like, God reached through that song and rang a bell inside me. And it was one more time when I died to myself, realized that if God made me good at telling stories and writing and singing, then it wasn't, to impress women. It was for his glory and for his kingdom. And so I was thinking about all this, about this idea that, whether I like it or not, I can't get away from the fact that I do believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. And yes, there's a sense in which I became a Christian when I was 9 years old, but there's another sense in which every day, the sun comes up and I die to myself again, and Christ raises me up in his mercy again. Every day, you preach the gospel to yourself, and you're reminded that his mercy is never ending. And so that's kind of the last big song on this album, Resurrection Letters, this kind of grand statement, which is kind of the theme of my life, even though I've tried to escape it, that I believe that Jesus is the Christ.
That